Hey guys, what is up? Chris Schroeder here with Matt Shirley for another episode of the Smart Flip. Today, guys, we have Charles on with us. Charles is the owner of Ivy Flip. Ivy Flip is a software that basically helps you source and sell couches. I believe I got that correct, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So we're going to be bringing him on today, and this episode is going to be mostly about the couch flipping industry and just some different things about that when it comes to, and we're going to go over a lot of parallels and different things like that with the electronics industry also, because I actually have some marketing experience in both. And I think that'll be pretty valuable. And I know Charles has quite a bit on the software and development, all of that type of thing as well. So, with that being said, we'll be go ahead and get started. By the way, if you want to be featured on this podcast, you want us to help you blow up your business a little bit,
Hey,
you are an electronics flipper, feel free to reach out. We'd love to bring you on the podcast, talk about how your business does, what your business does, how you do it, and maybe share some useful tips and tricks to help you grow, along with sharing that with the audience. With that being said, let's get started. So, Charles, can you tell us a little bit about, you know, early life and entrepreneurship? How'd you get into entrepreneurship? And we'll start there.
absolutely. And wanted to thank y'all for having me on the pod. Love doing podcasts. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur my entire career. I've never really had a job. And, for me, I went to University of Pittsburgh, and like my final year, like right before my senior year, I decided to take a semester off and I went to Asia. I went to Korea, Cambodia, and Vietnam, 1 month in each country. I'm half Korean, half Cambodian, and on my dad's side, they're Cambodian. They're refugees. They escaped the genocide from 1975 to 1979.
Mm.
And I had never been to Korea, or sorry, I'd never been to Cambodia in my life before. And growing up in the US, in like Pennsylvania suburbs, I grew up in a bubble, more or less. And my context for what life is like and what I deserve and what my expectations are were defined by the environment around me. And so growing up, I was always like, well, these kids have like, all the new and cool trinkets, or, they have Dunkaroos for lunch. Like, why can't I have that stuff, you know? And I think going to Cambodia for that first time was very eye-opening for me.
Mm.
These kids walking up to you, they're like 4 or 5 years old. They're not in school, they're begging for change. If I had grown up in that context, that would have been the opportunity that was available for me. And growing up, my dad would say a lot like, just be thankful, like that you have food to eat or something like that. And I never really got it, right? And it wasn't until I went there and saw where he had grown up and, how impoverished that country was that I really appreciated how much opportunity I have and Americans have, and how fortunate we are to be in this country. And I think that really, you know, thought got me to start thinking differently about my life. And so when I came back to the US, at that point I was just like floating through school. I wasn't a very good student. I don't think I had a purpose for being in school. I was kind of like partying my way through it. And so when I came back, I dropped out. I had a year left, philosophy major, computer science minor. And I also knew that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, not just to enrich myself, but also if I could create opportunities for other people, I knew that that's something that I wanted to do. And actually, if you go to the bottom of the Ivy Flip website today, you'll see our mission statement is to create opportunities for people. And so, yeah, that's how I got started on this journey. Along the way, I've done anything and everything. Like first started out uh, with a consumer packaged goods company selling bacon jam. Then I was at a software services agency, startup. I had a marketing agency for 4 years, so that's the brunt of my experience, I'd say, entrepreneurially. And
Mhm.
then since then, I had a I was the first employee at an insurance technology startup, now in Series A. I had a market research technology agency, Ivy Flip. Prior to us getting into the couch flipping industry, was a financial technology company. We ended up raising some venture capital at the end of 2021. And so along the road, a lot of different twists and turns. If you had asked me 10 years ago, do you see yourself building couch technology? I would have said absolutely not. And, I think I don't have a specialization. I just kind of go where the opportunity in life has taken me.
I like that. So you figure out where the stream is and you try to get it hooked
Yeah.
up to water, basically. I like
Mhm.
that. That's awesome, dude. So you said Ivy Flip started off as a. Let's go back to that real quick. It started off as a what?
Financial technology company. Yeah. So to break that down, we raised a sizable amount of seed funding from venture at the end of 2021. And we did it with like nothing. And what I mean by that is we didn't have a product, we didn't have customers, we didn't even have a pitch deck. So it was like me and my co-founder, we have our respective networks, and money is just like falling from the sky at the end of 2021. And the idea was, we didn't even really have necessarily a concrete idea, but we knew we wanted to build financial services for gig workers like Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, DoorDash delivery people.
Oh, okay.
And this is a segment in society that is underbanked and credit invisible. And we're dealing with a lot of immigrants from other countries who just don't know how to navigate the financial system. We we ended up on a kind of a loan product. And what we found is that if you're a gig worker and you need like liquidity to pay rent or meet some bill, like you're probably not getting that through a traditional financial institution. So they're turning to friends and family, or they're going to like predatory lending sources like payday lenders, pawn shops, etc. And so we thought we could build a new credit risk underwriting model that more appropriately gauges the credit risk of these individuals to give them a higher quality loan product, so lower interest rates, namely.
Got it.
And we're looking at things like their work data, their bank transactions, things that typically don't go into credit underwriting because they're mainly just looking at your credit score, right? Traditional finance, and then the payday lenders, they do look at other factors, but their their operating cost is very high, and then that cost gets passed down to the end user. So anyhow, long story short,
No,
that
yeah.
was
A
that
bunch
was
of
the idea.
confusing stuff, it sounds like.
Yeah. To, to make it simple, just like a more accessible loan product with better interest rates.
Got it.
And we thought there's something on the data science end that we could do to make that better.
So
But yeah,
how does that how does that transition over into what it is now? I think that's a very interesting question. Like,
yeah,
how
yeah,
do you
yeah.
go from that to helping people buy more couches? Like, yeah, like
That's fair. That's
let's
fair.
talk about that transition here because I'm kind of doing mental gymnastics on how that like happened or would have happened.
It's a great question. So the simple answer is the fintech company never made money. I think we made like $100 in
Boy,
about a year's time, right? We just raised a bunch of money and we're like, okay, well, what we need to show is growth. And then we're going to go raise another round of funding because a lot of these VC-backed companies never become They're like Uber just became profitable, I think, like a couple of years ago, right? So a lot of VC-backed companies grow and grow and grow. And the way that the investors get rich along the way is that, uh, there's subsequent rounds of funding. And eventually there's like a liquidity event, like the company goes public and then everyone gets paid, right? And so that's the thesis of the model there. The company doesn't necessarily have to be profitable. So for us, our assumption was like, all right, we raised money like that the first time around. We're going to do that again in 2022, but this time we're going to raise $5-6 million. And then the markets crashed in
Oh,
2022,
yeah. Mhm.
yeah,
right? And the cost of the Fed keeps raising interest rates, the cost of capital is high.
Yeah.
And then if the stock markets crash, that affects downstream all VC investments because VC
Right.
investments are predicated on future exit liquidity opportunities in the public markets.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, we're like, fuck, we have to pump the brakes on this and we have to do something that actually makes money. So yeah, that was really the genesis of Ivy Flip. So one thing is, as we're looking at these gig workers' bank accounts to try and do this credit risk underwriting, a lot of these guys don't even have $500 in savings. And so we started talking like maybe we're solving the wrong problem.
Mm,
Like instead of offering them a better interest rate on a loan, how do we put more money in their pockets? And
right.
so then we started kicking around ideas of side hustles. And I got started in entrepreneurship because there was a guy who gave me an opportunity and that jump started my career. And so similarly, we're like, how do we create these opportunities for other people? One of our engineers at the time was also a carpenter as a hobby, and he had flipped some furniture. And so we started looking at the furniture market and people who were flipping furniture. And adjacent to the furniture market, furniture flippers were the couch flippers. And the funny thing is, like, furniture flippers by and large are women.
Yeah.
I would say like 80, 90% women.
Yeah.
And they're doing it almost like as a creative outlet,
Mm.
like
Yep.
a lot of stay-at-home moms who need like a
Yeah.
little side income and side projects, and they're doing it almost for like fun.
Yep.
And then in contrast, the couch flippers, these guys are all capitalists and they're mostly men.
Yeah.
Very, very fair.
True.
So we started talking to a couple of them, like, hey, what problems do you have? And a lot of them came back and said the same thing. If I could get more high quality inventory at the right price, I could make more money. And we're like, oh, maybe we can help you with that. So we spun up the MVP of our sourcing tool, which scrapes marketplace listing data in order to send you an instant notification whenever something is posted. And we launched that 2 weeks later, and we signed up, I think, 3 customers our first day.
Nice.
And here we are today.
Love
Nice.
that.
That was exactly like 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago.
The fascinating like switch of like where it's interesting as an entrepreneur where you have this whole goal in mind and then it just gets like totally derailed and you end up doing something wildly different. It's very interesting how all of that works. Um, it's really cool at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, be
um,
like water, my friend, right?
right.
Yeah. Every podcast needs a Bruce Lee quote.
So whenever you guys like found the couch flippers, um, like what was the thought? What went into helping them? Um, like what were their main issues? Like you said it was sourcing. That was probably the number one issue is just getting quality products. But you and I have also talked about the other issue, which is actually selling these things. This isn't really a problem we have in the electronic space, right?
True.
Like, even with the game consoles, the max time we hold on to a game console is what, a week, if you're pricing correctly, right, Matt?
Yeah, I would say like a week, maybe 10 days or something like that, top end.
Yeah, with a phone, you can sell it the same day.
True.
I mean, so
Very
we don't
true.
really have this issue in our industry. It's all about like getting it at a good price, because in what my mentor said, the money's made when you buy, not when you
Yeah.
sell.
Yeah.
So
Right.
let's
And,
talk about
yeah, interestingly enough, I just lost my phone.
that.
I was in a taxi on my way to a birthday party like 10
Oh
days
no.
ago. Yeah. And it happens every 2 years. Like I happen to lose my phone every 2 years. So like I've had the Galaxy 4, the 6, the 8, the 20, the 22, and now I'm getting the 24. So it's just cyclical. I don't know. Every 2 years
Oh
I
man.
lose it, it gets stolen. Um, and yeah, like one thing about and this is I think the main difference between many flipping markets actually and the couch flipping market. Well, let's say at least electronics and like cars in contrast to couches is that the value of a phone and the pricing for a phone or a car, these are relatively well understood by the market.
Hmm.
So it's like you're not going to get that much of a deal from one guy selling his Samsung Galaxy 24 or the iPhone 14 versus another guy if they're listed on a marketplace like eBay. Like these all sort of trend towards parity. Same thing with like selling a vehicle. People know, even if they know nothing about cars, they kind of know what the value of their car is. And that's because they can go look it up in a database like Kelley Blue Book, and it'll tell them exactly this is
Right.
your dealer value, this is your public private market value, et cetera.
Yeah.
Whereas with couches, people generally do not know what the value of their couch is. And that's exactly what creates a very interesting opportunity for arbitrage. I've
Yeah.
seen people pay more for a used couch than what that couch retails for new.
Wow.
Yeah, in some cases, right? Like and part of it is like the value added services that flippers provide and the fact that it's like instant gratification. So I don't have to wait for this thing to ship to me and get to my house and then I assemble it. It's like it's already pre-assembled and this guy's going to deliver it to me same day, right? So that's part of the reason why that opportunity exists. But
Yeah.
man, like a big part of buying couches and flipping couches is just the convenience factor that a flipper provides. So, like when we're doing flipping in New York City, we're running free pickup ads, and we pull up to these skyrise luxury apartments in Manhattan. This guy's giving away $10,000 designer couch for free, and it's just like he has like new furniture coming in the next day, and he just wants it out,
Wow.
and there isn't a good solution for lugging this big bulky item out of his house. I think the other really key difference here is that typically couches are being sold locally as opposed to nationally or internationally because these are not products that you can ship. And so this has led to the creation of very interesting local markets, like a market for couches that are driven uh, like local markets for couches compared to like national
Hmm.
markets for phones or cars where pricing and cost and pricing reach parity much more quickly.
I like that. So basically, it's more of a um, you get to choose more of the price. That's on you get a lot more choice in pricing is basically what you're saying because people don't have the same options as they do with phones and electronics where they can just get it shipped and deliver it and plug it in where the couch flipper they can number one this could be a one of one type of couch that you can't even find online kind of deal right like that $10,000 couch you were talking about that the guy just wanted to get rid of. I've done stuff like that before where I just have this big bulky thing and I'm just like, take it. Like, I don't want it anymore. Like, just get it out of my house.
Yeah.
I've done that many times. So it does create that more like one of one type of a way of doing things. And that, I guess that is a big pro that you have in that industry where you can adjust the price basically however you want to because you're probably not going to find this anywhere else this specific thing
Yeah, the
like
one of one point is really good. Like every couch is a snowflake, some more than others.
Okay.
Um, one of the key things I've learned in my 2 years in the couch flipping industry is that a couch is worth exactly what someone will pay for it. Right. And so there's a lot that goes into what that perceived value is. So if you do a really good job of presenting yourself, your brand, you have a nice showroom,
yeah
you take quality photos, and like you're tuned into sales and marketing psychology, you can get a lot more value or profit out of a couch compared to someone who's just winging it on Facebook Marketplace. I think the other component is competition is local as opposed to national and international. This is a really key piece because like when you're competing against the world and anyone can throw their ring in the game or hat in the ring, uh like inefficiencies get competed away very rapidly and prices tend to reach parity much more faster. But if it's just you in Oklahoma City and you're up against like 5 guys in a truck,
Yeah.
right? Like that, the bar could be a lot lower in terms
True.
of how,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But the one of one argument is also really good too. That some of these couches they've been in like this guy's house for 7 8 years. They don't even know who manufactured it or what the model is. Like it's discontinued. So if you really like that couch and you miss out on your opportunity, like there's probably not more where that couch
Yeah.
came from. And if you're dealing explicitly with like used inventory.
One thing I like about the couch flipping industry too is it kind of parallels with what I say about phones and electronics. Is like everybody has one, right? Like somebody can be a customer now or later, right? Because everybody has a couch in their house. Let's just be real. Everybody has a couch in their apartment. Like everybody has one, but it's it kind of comes back down to like with the iPhones and stuff. Do you have an iPhone 6? We don't really want to buy that. There's probably couches that are the equivalent to an iPhone 6, right? But then you got the ones that are the equivalent to an iPhone 16, right? Where it's this high end sectional, right? I remember whenever I was talking with Jared, he's one of our couch flippers that turned phone flipper, and he talked about how like he learned the whole couch flipping thing from Ryan Pineda, and um, he only did sectionals, high end sectionals, making $300 to $400 profit per one. So he hardly ever had any inventory, but he also hardly ever bought anything. So because very little people have those types of couches. So I think there's a couple of subsections in y'all's industry where people kind of will probably gravitate towards. There's probably the people that pick up things for free and resell. There's probably the subcategory where people pick up the things between 2 to 600, flip it for 800 to 1,000. I don't know. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like, is that something you've probably noticed? Because I definitely have noticed that in our industry.
Absolutely. Well, about that Jared guy, you should send him back to me. Maybe we can get him back into the couch game.
Oh, he has.
Hey-oh.
I think he's doing. I helped him, kind of in a way. He's not even flipping phones anymore. He's making a lot more now because he started coaching people on how to pass the SAT, and
There you go.
absolutely killing it now. He
Yeah.
kind of took
Great.
what we did in
Yeah,
Recelerator and turned it into his own coaching business, and
it's pretty cool.
now he helps people crush it. So
There you go. Well, this is kind of an aside, but an interesting point is that a lot of flippers, it's their first entrepreneurial endeavor. And when you're flipping, there are some shortcuts that you normally get to take in running a business compared to if you were going to like start a restaurant or something, right? There's a lot
Yeah,
more startup capital, a lot more time, energy, investment that goes into being able to be profitable. Whereas like flippers, they come out of the gate like being able to get inventory and find distribution very quickly.
yeah.
Um, and so over time, they face a need to become more like a real business and do things like what you guys help with, which is like
Mhm.
learning how to market yourself. And then once you develop these business skills, you can take that and transfer it into other
yeah,
opportunities, which,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so true.
things that we've done and I've done in my past too. But to answer your question more specifically, yeah, absolutely. There are different niches of couch flipping. Some guys are more low end volume plays. Other guys try to present themselves more like high end showroom type deals. And there's no one size fits all answer. I think it depends on yourself. You got
Yeah.
to know yourself and what you want to be doing, and also your market, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know if you're in like the hood somewhere and you throw up a really high end showroom, maybe that's not the greatest fit, and vice versa if you're a really high income area. Um, one thing that you said earlier that alludes to this. Um, Sorry, wait, what was the thing that you said earlier? It was, oh yeah, everybody needs a couch, right?
Mhm.
Everybody needs a couch. It's kind of like a staple of your home.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, interestingly, I found that there's no such thing as a bad couch. Like it really is relative to the price of the couch.
Mm.
So like an iPhone 6, like generally there's not really a market for an iPhone 6, but there actually might be a market for a really beat up couch. People that are transient, like college students that are going
Mhm.
to only be in this house for a year, military families that don't know where they're going to end up next. And they don't, or like people with dogs, they know that like dogs are like going to aggressively beat up that couch. And so they really don't want to invest in an iPhone 16. They just want that iPhone 6. And if they can get it for like 100, $200, like that's the right price for them. And they're almost like they're they're leaning more into this low end stuff. So I do think there's a market for everything. It just depends on price point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's one anecdote. Like I was just talking to a flipper out in Tampa on my podcast, and Tampa obviously just got hit with two storms,
Mhm.
hurricanes, and my assumption was that like sales would be depressed because people are, their homes are ruined, they're damaged, and that obviously costs a lot of money, and people are displaced. And I imagine overall economically that the area is suffering. But he's like, dude, business is booming. It's kind of like it's not good, right? Like these hurricanes hit, but like for him, at least business is booming. And it's because if your house gets flooded, one of the first things you're going to replace is your couch.
True.
Like maybe even before getting a bed, because you can sleep on a couch, right? And like you can chill on a couch, you can sleep on a couch, you can lounge. It really is the center place of much of the activity in your home. So the market is quite robust.
That makes total sense.
I like that. No, and it does make a lot of sense. On it is one of the main things you would replace quickly. I remember
Mm,
whenever I first got my very first apartment, like that was one of the first things I went looking for was a couch and a table. Like I need a couch and just a coffee table. That is all I need as a man to live. I can sleep on the couch, even before bed, right? Like you just said, you can sleep on a couch, you can lounge on the couch, you can. It's a good point. And we sit on our couch every day. So
yeah. What's funny is like for a guy like I probably at this point know more about couch flipping than anyone, I think. Like even like more even maybe more so than the people that are actually flipping couches. Like I've flipped a couple couches just for the experience, but the interesting thing from my vantage point is that I interact with like 5, 10 couch flippers a day for the past 2 years. So thousands of couch flippers over the past 2 years. And like I get to kind of poke into their business from like a bird's eye view and
yeah,
see what's working in their business and like what's not, and compare and contrast the different business models. But um I think I've bought like other than the couple couches that I flipped, like I in my life I've bought like one couch. And like
hmm.
in college I bought some recliners.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then recently in my apartment in New York, I did buy a couch from a couch flipper to yeah, get that going. And actually that couch flipper became one of our very good clients, and we've done a bunch of projects since then. So shout out to Kenji.
that's awesome.
Hey, that's awesome.
Good stuff. All right, cool. So let's see here, Matt. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I like I'm just kind of looking for some of the overlaps as far as like business modeling goes. Like one of the things that I'm hearing sort of in between the lines is that the level of indifference that some people have towards their couch is actually a great opportunity for a lot of people that are looking to step into a side hustle. And I really like how if you can identify that regardless of what the product is or what market it might be, that spells opportunity for people looking to make extra income. And you guys identified that niche with couches. I identified that niche with consoles, and it seems to work seamlessly for both parties that might be, interested in reselling that type of product. Um, yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else like that that, interestingly, like seems to sort of like crossfade into like other industries that maybe you've come across or been able to identify, Charles?
Mhm.
Just curious.
Well, I kind of want to reverse that back to you. So like I know what the drivers are for someone trying to get rid of a couch and what leads, creates these incredible buy opportunities. I'm curious,
Sure.
like for
Yeah.
consoles, your cell phones, like what are the driving factors there?
Yeah.
Good question.
Um, Consoles, I mean, every house has one, if not several, seemingly. A lot of people are not as invested in their console as they are in like the sentiments attached to their phone. The phone's just a far much more like personal item, and a console is simply used for like entertainment. And when a new model comes out, people naturally begin to grow disinterested in the present models. And it's not that the value of that model has actually changed. It's just that their evaluation of that model has changed because it personally doesn't mean as much to them as it once did. And so you just had a massive wave of releases from Meta, MetaQuest, or Oculus. You know, Mark Zuckerberg and his crew released the new MetaQuest 3S. That naturally it takes the limelight, and it takes items that were previously in that limelight, and it puts them at a greater level of disinterest because now there's a new kid on the block. Similarly, Microsoft released three new Xbox models. Not much different in terms of how they look, but different in terms of what they can do. They're faster, they're slicker, they're better. Same thing happens in the fall whenever Apple releases like a new model of phone, right? Now the old one out with the old, in with the new. And as a consequence, like that margin, whether it's there's a massive amount of disparity between those two or just kind of small, regardless, margin is margin. It creates space and opportunity for people to step in and say, oh, look, you see this? This item over here is undervalued now. Let's take that opportunity and capitalize on it. And so, whenever I kind of took two courses on the front side of this. David Kosciuszko, a guy who's Chris and I and a lot of phone flippers are very familiar with in this industry within phones. And then another couple, shouts out to Rob and Melissa with Flea Market Flipper. But for me, that was the fundamentals I had looking at consoles. And I was like, okay, how do I take that base like knowledge of information and then apply it to an industry that I didn't understand? And Chris would probably say like most people knew there was opportunity, but like were reluctant to tackle because the diversity of
Yeah,
stuff is
definitely.
crazy. So like for me, like I guess a simple way to relate it is you mentioned like showroom pieces, like high-end stuff. Like one thing I can identify is if I look online and I see like an Ethan Allen, like especially like a vintage Ethan Allen like couch, I know that's money compared to like, oh, it's just another gray sectional that somebody got from like, bargain bin down the street. It's like, okay, Ethan Allen is a name that it carries with it a notoriety like Sony. Sony Electronics, it doesn't matter what they are always at the top of the upper echelon of like premium and price. And so the cool thing that I've realized is knowing that about one particular niche of reselling, I automatically kind of identify and go, if that exists over here, it has to exist over here.
Yeah,
So
no,
it makes me curious
well,
now, like thinking about what you're doing with couch flippers, going, oh, okay, Charles, like what is the Sony of like the couch flipping world, or what is like the Apple of a showroom piece? And I don't know if there's anything you would care to share or speak to that, not to obviously, steal anyone's profit or anything, but I don't know, just out of curiosity, it'd be an interesting conversation piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like the console market has changed quite a bit. Like I was mostly a PC gamer growing up.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
32 now.
Mhm.
Um, but like, man, like I had the Nintendo 64, I had a GameCube, and these aren't things like I know people do sell and get rid of these things, but I think there
Yeah,
is a lot of sentimental value associated with these older consoles, like the first generation PlayStation, first.
yeah.
But like nowadays, I don't think kids have that same level of attachment to
no.
their consoles that we may have
Yeah.
had growing up.
Yeah. Well, fair point. The vintage stuff is still like, hey, that's like holy ground right there for a lot of people. And the funny thing is the newest stuff and some of the vintage stuff generally kind of conjures like the highest value, whether it's because of sentiment or just market. There's one reason or the other why those things are typically kind of a higher premium than the other things that maybe lost their luster.
Yeah. I mean, the brilliant thing about Nintendo, and like the GameCube and the N64, et cetera, is that nowadays, as new consoles come out, and I don't really game anymore, but I imagine like, they have better processors, better graphics cards, they're, more resolution in the game, but it doesn't mean that the game is any more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just a random thought I had.
For sure.
So you were asking, uh, what are the best sellers in the couch world, right? So yeah, like the high end stuff, it just really it correlates fairly strongly to price point
Mm,
and what
right.
would be considered a high end brand in out in the normal markets, right? So on the super high end, you'd have brands like Restoration Hardware, Design
Mm,
Within Reach, maybe like custom furniture manufacturers and like Italian custom Italian leather pieces,
mm,
things like that. And sort of in the mid range, you'd have brands like Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, West Elm,
yep.
Joybird, etc. And then obviously you have like the cheaper, lower end stuff, maybe in the IKEA, Wayfair, Amazon goods category, and
Yeah.
then everything in between. So it's not a
Yeah.
comprehensive list.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. Yeah, the three tiers of pricing is I think pretty common across,
Yeah.
any industry it translates over. And that's just it's fascinating. And I think it's fun, within this, like I talk about like a vocabulary of price, like you start to get hands-on, and I think it's cool that you guys expose people to what that looks like and uh, help that learning curve, more quickly. I'd also be curious to kind of hear your thoughts on like you flipped a couple pieces. You said you bought a piece from a couch flipper in New York, and now you guys are like in cahoots, like doing business together, which I think is super cool. Um, but I think there's a similarity between the three of us in that, you see people see a gold rush, they're like, oh, okay, couch flipping. Like until I met Jared from the Recelerator course, I had no idea that couch flipping was a thing. Which is funny because some people don't know about what I do and oh, there's a guy who knows consoles and console flipping and that sort of stuff. But like, here's a gold rush, and then there's some guys over here who go, "Oh yeah, let's sell some shovels." The people out there, and I think that in itself is really cool too because Chris mentioned Jared. He talked about now Jared has a course because he sees that there's a market and an opportunity for people who are looking
Yep.
how to figure out. So what I think is really beautiful or brilliant about what you guys did is you realize like you were asking the wrong question and you started asking a different question, like how do we help fill people's pockets with greater opportunity? And I'm wondered how has that sort of like train of thought helped to further cultivate the problem you solve for couch flippers?
Yeah.
Whether it's in like what you've already done or maybe some refinings of what you have done, how has that sharpened your business or your business sense?
It's a really good question. So this year, I had to make a decision about where we wanted to go with the company. So we have the sourcing product. It helps you find products to flip, and it could be used for anything. I happen to just market it as a couch flipping specific product, but
Gotcha.
and that's because, I'd rather be something to someone than nothing to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the couch flip guy, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
But the product can be used for anything. Like you want to source phones, you want to source cars, like, and we have competitors now on the sourcing front. That's exactly what they're doing. They're just going broad.
Yep.
I decided to go deep. And what that means is instead of trying to sell the sourcing capability to as many different flippers and as many different niches as possible,
Uh-huh.
I want to integrate more deeply with a fewer number of customers and figure out how to help their businesses grow. And
Mhm.
as their business grows, figure out how to grow alongside with them. And so, one big problem that I saw in the couch flipping industry is there are a lot of people in the game that are working really hard and trying to get to that next level, but there are not many, if any, people that are flipping couches like pure couch flippers that have cracked seven figures in revenue.
Mm.
And if I'm going to predicate the growth of my business on the growth of their business, we need to figure out a way to break through the ceiling. And so what we figured out is couch flipping as a business model simply is not that scalable because there's a natural limit or a ceiling that you hit when you're looking for inventory on Facebook Marketplace one by one, building
Right.
your business couch by couch, you get to like 30 flips a month, which is like 30, like a flip a day. And there's
Right.
literally just like not enough time in the day to go get more couches, right? Like you got to go find the deal, use a sourcing app, get there first, negotiate with the seller, go to pick it up. Maybe there's some issue with it, bring it back to your storage, clean it, let it dry, take photos, list it on Facebook. And that's like a lot. That's like a 4 hour process just for a
Yeah.
single flip, right?
Yeah. That's enduring.
And so what we're trying to do is elucidate the model that takes you from doing 6 figures, $250,000 a year, which is good income, but how do you break through to that next level? A very key part of this problem is having a more scalable source of inventory. So in that regard, we have partnered, I started this year partnering with retailers, reaching out to them and being like, hey, you guys have a ton of returns and overstock inventory that are sitting in warehouses that you don't know what to do with. I have a huge network of flippers that are hungry for inventory. Why don't you let me liquidate that inventory to my network of flippers?
Yeah.
And I started doing this retailer liquidation wholesale brokering 3 months ago. So we started in August. It's November 1st, so it's exactly 3 months. In the past 3 months, we've moved $1 million worth of product. And
Wow.
so there is just this incredible fit
Yeah.
between the needs of the retailer to get rid of this overstock
Yeah.
and the needs of the flipper to get quality, affordable inventory at scale.
Yeah.
And they're getting it at incredible margins. They're able to mark up their products 100%, 150% in resale pricing. And these items require little to no processing. So this is not a couch that has sat in someone's home for 5, 6 years. This is literally new in box
Mm.
or
Hmm.
something that was returned within a 30-day return window. And so like new quality,
Yeah.
and there might be some damage from transit, et cetera, but all within like a very normal and acceptable range for stuff. So the way I think about my role in the couch flipping industry and how we are evolving with our flippers is I want to give them I want to shine a light on what the end game might be here because I think so many of the people involved today are almost there unconscious, almost there like thinking a little bit on an unconscious, have an unconscious relationship with their business. It's like they like started because they thought, hey, I can make like $500 flipping cash. That's great. And then they just kind of like followed that path. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like they have like an actual business. But it's not something that they intentionally brought to life. They just kind of followed the opportunity to get there.
No, they
Yeah.
just
And
fell into it on accident.
Accidental
exactly,
entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we see
accidental
that a lot with the
entrepreneurs.
phone flippers.
Yeah.
A lot actually is
Mm.
like, oops, I made $1,000. What do I do? Like, like it's like, you
Yeah.
know, it's funny, but it's true though. It's like you can almost accidentally start this business, and then you're like, okay, now I got to actually grow this thing, and then that takes a different mindset too, right? Like you said, it's like they're unconscious to the fact that they now actually have a business, right? Like they could be. I've seen many people, especially in our industry, get up to like 3 to 4 grand a month in profit just like working after work. That's it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and that's something, and then they start looking for people like me and Matt and my company, where
Hmm.
it's like, okay, this thing is like I'm actually making money here, and didn't really expect to kind of thing, but I am. Now I probably need to take this a little more seriously. And then they have to have that switch, right? And that switch is actually quite difficult. Because now, like, whenever I made the switch, it took a while to get used to it. Like, we have one guy going through it right now, actually, Kevin, Matt,
Hmm.
he's going through being a full-time flipper right now. And he just finished his first month. Because he quit his job at 5,000 a month in profit, and he was like, okay, now I want to do this full time, and he's asking questions all the time about like, what does he need to do in between, you know, like he's now finally like getting to the point now where he's like understanding that he has a business that is providing for him and that, you know, it's going to pay his bills. So I do agree with that a lot. Like a lot of people just live in this unconscious state where they're making a couple extra grand a month, but they're also not taking it fully seriously at the same time. And like you said, Ivy Flip and stuff like that can help people take it to the next level by systematizing certain processes. And this is in my wheelhouse, 100% is systems and marketing. Because what I did with my business is I totally systematized it, like 30-day follow ups. You know, follow up with every lead, get the Google review, take the photo. This is the stuff that we teach
Hmm.
that helps people grow their business, not their side hustle. This is why in Recelerator we only take the people that have made their first $1,000 flipping, and that's there's a reason for that. It's because the first $1,000 is the hardest mountain to climb.
Yeah.
Like that's where you're going to learn most of the business, and everything after that is literally just the same. It's just more volume,
Yeah.
and it's
Right.
probably similar
It's
with couches actually.
they say it's easier to make $1 million than 100,000, right?
Oh my gosh, first 100K is so difficult. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Everything
Charlie
after that
Munger would
isn't that
agree.
hard until you start getting taxed out the freaking.
Oh
I'm not
boy.
going to get into that.
Mhm.
Um,
First year making over 200, I was not happy with the taxes.
yeah. So Charles, I think there's a great kind of connection point, especially, and I know this is probably like t piquing Chris's brain as well, but the opportunity there with helping to retailers to liquidate, and then also helping couch flippers to discover more inventory, like that elucidates a very keen opportunity. That is a really distinct bridge to build and put people in a position where everybody wins. Like Chris and I love things like that. And in a lot of ways, that is, I think, one of the like inevitably, once I help somebody flip several consoles, the next question they go is, "This is great. I feel like I've got something, but how do I make more money?" Um,
So
and
this
so,
actually, like, I really
go ahead,
like,
Chris.
I really like that because it got me thinking. Like, you know, Best Buy has returns. A lot of these electronic stores have like just return stuff like that all the time, very similar to the furniture places. It also reminds me of that arcade that I bought all of those Meta Quests from.
Hmm.
You know, like it reminds me of that a lot because these people are coming in contact with them all the time.
Yeah,
And broken, damaged, used, it's kind of a similar thing. We could actually help our guys with that and make those types of connections. So it's a really good. I'll just let
yeah.
you continue what you were saying, Matt. It's just kind of popped in my head.
Well, no, I think Charles, I'm fascinated as to like I would love to continue to hear, the sound bites in reference to that, or how being in the mind of the couch flipper now, since you're going deep, has also helped you think, okay, there's a problem to solve here, and that's scaling. Um, so yeah, please, whatever else you can continue to say about that, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little high level here. For me, entrepreneurship is a career, right? And so I'm willing to do any and all work in the business that pushes the business forward. I don't think I'm above any particular task. So if I
Hmm.
need to get a broom out and sweep the floor so we have a clean office, like I'll do that. But the difference between how I think and I think how most employees think is that I work in sprints. So I will form a plan, form a hypothesis about, you know, X leads to Y, and then I'll execute the steps to go prove that X leads to Y, and either confirm or invalidate that hypothesis. And then I take some time, I reflect, I form a new plan, and then I do another iteration. And this is very natural for me,
Hmm.
which is why like as I encounter obstacles in my journey, like I'm able to work around it because I don't just blindly execute for, long periods of time without taking a period to pause and reflect like what is actually the right way forward.
Yeah.
And so entrepreneurs think that the growth in their business is going to be linear, right?
Yeah.
It's just a straightforward relationship between input and output. Um, and unless you're like a business with some type of network effect, like a social media platform, which would have more of an exponential growth trajectory, right? Like most businesses actually have something that looks more like a stepwise function. So it goes like up and then like this if you were to zoom out
Yeah.
over a longer time horizon.
Yeah.
Um, and so like just giving the example of Ivy Flip, when we first got into the sourcing market, we scaled incredibly quickly. Like we got to $30,000 a month in recurring revenue in like the first 3-4 months of launching the product. And basically for me, if I find a lever within my business and I can pull on that lever and it's like generating a high rate of return, it's giving me good leverage on my time. I'm going to pull on that lever with blind focus and like it's total blinders on. Like that's the only thing. Like you pull on that lever, and if for anyone listening to this, if you find a lever in your business and you pull that lever and it prints money, like don't ever stop pulling that lever until
Yeah.
it stops printing money, right?
That's good.
So we found that lever. And then, you know, that was a year and a half ago. And then, we had 6 months where growth kind of plateaued, but it's still good. We had a monopoly on the market. And then this year, competitors started coming out,
Mhm.
literally copying our software, and it's created a race to the bottom in terms of pricing. So
Mm.
overall, we have like the same amount or more customers, but our margins have gotten squeezed. And so, you know, as we enter these doldrums in growth, the question for me is like, okay, what next? Right? We clearly can't just continue to try to do the same thing over and over again. What's the next lever? And so that's ultimately my thought process leading to, this retailer returns angle. And actually, this is so much more lucrative than what we're doing in the sourcing market. So, the if I owned 100% of the sourcing market in all categories, maybe we're talking couple $1 million in annual recurring revenue. I think the max for this market today is about that. Whereas like the furniture retail or furniture e-commerce market in the United States is over $100 billion, and furniture returns happen on about 20% of orders. And like
Wow.
especially this past 3 months where we're working directly with retailers to do these liquidations and we moved $1 million worth of product, it just really opened my eyes to what the scale of the opportunity is. So for us, the sourcing was always a wedge. We wanted to see, of course, like the more money we can make, the better, but it was always going to be a stepping stone into the next thing. And I think this is the trap that many couch flippers fall into, is that they assume that they can just linearly scale their model. And so the number of flippers that I've talked to where, oh man, I'm doing like 30K, 25K a month, 30K a month. Like I want to open up another location, kind of like a franchise, and like be operating in like 2 cities, or I'm going to get a bigger warehouse space and I'm going to hire people and they're going to do the sourcing for me. They assume that the way that they're going to scale their business past a certain point is a straightforward extension of their model,
Huh.
as opposed to re like contemplating at its core what that model is. And yeah, so like in a way I'm like doing that for them. Like we're for
Yeah.
some of those people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like what we did with the marketing, Matt,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
we basically automated the whole, because the biggest thing with the phone flippers is like there's never going to be a shortage of devices to flip. Like that,
That's
it's like
fair.
how it's more or less how much can you handle, and are you limited by the amount of cash that you have, right?
Yeah.
Like those are the two limiting the most limiting things. Because I mean, we've had people that they they can buy all day long because the marketing works, right? Once you get, we got our reach out bot now. We got Facebook ads, we got Google ads, Google My Business, all of that now. Like once all of that gets firing on all cylinders, it's hard to not get deals, right?
Yeah.
But then it becomes more of a limit of like capital at that point. Like a
Yeah.
while back, I spoke about. I mean, Matt remembers it. I think it was Sean sent us a photo of his living room. It was just full. of freaking devices,
Yeah.
right? And he's
Yeah.
like, I ran out of money. I guess I need to sell the stuff, right?
Great problem.
The problem with ours isn't like the selling. It's more, it's more of a capital, I guess, issue for our people. It's like if they had more money, they could buy more stuff, but they also fix that problem by buying and selling faster. So, um,
Yeah.
that's
Do you
really the.
guys, are
Mhm.
there any seven-figure console or phone flippers?
Mhm.
Do we have what?
Are there any seven-figure console flippers
Yes,
or phone flippers?
yes, there are. Yeah.
And
Um,
what is
they
different
typically
about,
the way that
yeah.
that works is they'll start off as a local flipper, and then they will grow into what's called a direct buyer, um, and then it more or less becomes a volume game for them,
Yeah.
right? They're not out buying locally anymore at that point. Um, like if you stay in it and you want to get to seven figures with phones and electronics, um, you're probably going to fully niche down to phones and go that way, right? I have a mentor who, um, his name is also Matt. Uh, he niched down to like dead on arrival devices. That was the only thing he would ever buy, and that was it. And he became a seven figure flipper, just doing that because people would just mail him in. He would mail him back out at a higher price, and that's all he was doing all day long. Like, and I was like, gosh,
Yeah.
that's so simple, but it's also like it makes sense. The only thing with the flipping space that I don't really like too much is the sellability of the business model, right? Like that part is hard. Like even if you have a quote unquote seven figure flipping business, it might not even be worth seven figures, right? Just because of what it is, and anybody can start it and stuff like that. So I mean that's why I went the software way, right? It's like where I have these two softwares now um, that basically handle all of the marketing for phone flippers and resellers
Hmm.
on this side.
It's really, really interesting. This is actually something I've been thinking a lot about lately is so like I was saying, I want to shine a light for flippers. Like, what could this be? And that involves a description of the end game. So if you build this business, what are
Mhm.
your exit opportunities? And so there's this couch conference coming up in Chicago. I've been encouraging people to go to the conference, and I just did a newsletter about this. But I was talking to one of the bigger couch flippers that we work with, and it's like, "Are you going?" He's like, "Nah, like I don't see the point." And I was like, what do you mean you don't see the point? Like you literally bought a couch flipping business. You're like one of the most pot committed people in couch flipping. How could you not see the point? And he's like, well, I don't really know what I'm like the value I'm going to get out of the talks. And I don't know why I need to network with couch flipper. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But I think the real reason people should go to the couch conference is because we're creating an industry. And if you want to exit in the future, having an industry of people that are doing what you're doing with similar business models is very important.
Yeah.
So, like if you're going to sell the business to an individual, well, there has to be someone in your market that wants to do what you're doing, aka like a competitor. Or if you want to exit to private equity or a strategic acquirer, they're going to look at your underlying financials. Yes. Like, and they'll probably assign a multiple to your EBITDA. Let's say that's 4x EBITDA. Um, but they're also considering factors like what is the total addressable market? Is the market growing faster than
Mhm.
GDP?
Mhm.
And how is the business or industry position within broader trends? So the more people show up and support the industry and make it a real thing, the more
Mhm.
legitimate it becomes and the more value it has, just like a stock, right? Just like
Yeah.
Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin isn't worth anything except the value that we put into it or the community behind it
Yeah.
puts into
The
it. So,
perceived value. Yeah.
mhm. But like, um, this kind of leads me to thinking about what you're talking about, which is you can't sell a cell phone flipping business. It seems like I mean, there is some multiple of EBITDA that you could value it at, but because this is not like a very well understood business model, those valuations are harder to like less, probably more variable, less accurate. And then it presumes that there is a market of buyers that want to run the business that you're running. But like other than that, like, is there something inherently about like the way these businesses operate that make them hard to sell?
So I'm gonna say this on the local flipper type of model, right? Once you get to like direct buyer level, it is a lot more sellable in terms of that asset at that point, right? At that point is where you really got to start having a brand, and you're bringing in thousands of devices a month,
Mhm.
um, and at that point, very sellable, right? But at the lower level flipper type of level, it's not super sellable, right? But if, unless you have a location or something similar to that, right? And then at that point, it actually becomes the power of the list, like the list of customers that you have in the local market, right? And this is one reason why I tell my flippers all the time, you need to be following up every 30 days. You need to stay in contact with your customers. You need to be doing this stuff.
Mhm.
That way you keep the revolving door of cash open, you know?
Mhm.
Um, we just had one of our students post his spreadsheet the other day, and like it was like a waterfall of just repeat customers,
Mhm.
right? And he's been doing this for about 2 years. So like that can become a business model. However, he is very tied to the branding of that business too. Like he is the brand, right? Which is where a lot of local flippers are. Is they're just tied, they are their brand, and that's fine, right? Um, what I like to encourage a lot of flippers to do is utilize the skill sets that they learn and transition into a higher paying opportunity, which is a recommendation that I make all the time, depending on what their goals are. Um, the
Send them to
likelihood
me.
is, huh?
Send them to me. No, I'm just kidding.
So, like for example, I've transitioned mostly to software. It's a higher level skill set. I get paid much more, and I get, it's a very sellable asset. Like just by numbers wise, a marketing agency is very sellable, right? Like very sellable. Also, there's really no cost incurred upon taking on a client. So, I mean, unless you're, doing what we're doing with Recelerator, then there is cost on taking on a client. Um, I pay Matt and I pay Aaron and I pay our guys to train these people up and basically shove a year's worth of information into their brain in like a week, you know? So we just shortcut all the most of the problems that people are going to have. So even Recelerator is not a super sellable asset. I'm the brand of it, right? That's why I have the softwares. So I usually encourage people get the skills because when you start a phone flipping business or a couch flipping business, like not you're not only starting a business like but you're actually earning in two ways. You're going number one, you're going to be earning money, but you're also going to be earning skill sets. And those skill sets are the actual value. It those are going to be worth more than anything else. Whether you get a job, right? Like if you end up, let's say you leave phone flipping and get a job, or you do exactly what Jared did and you start teaching people how to pass the SAT score. Like his first initial sales stuff was done flipping phones and electronics and couches. And he learned how to sell people, right? And then he started selling people on, I think it's like a 25 or $3,000 program now to help people pass their SAT faster. So like it's what I call skill stacking, right? So if you can stack enough skills, you just inherently become worth more. And phone flipping lays the groundwork of like five skills altogether,
Yeah.
and I love it. I mean, that's
I
what I
see.
did.
Yeah, so it sounds like there aren't really assets that are valuable within a local phone flippers business. It's mostly like the business generates revenue, but it's mostly due to owner labor.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you can hire pieces of it out. You can do that.
Cuts into margin, you know.
Yeah,
It's
but
the same problem with couch flipping, really. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like once you get to 30 flips a month, yeah, you can scale by hiring people, but what ends up happening is you get to 50 flips a month, but your margins have eroded. The business is more complex. You have more moving parts.
Mhm.
You kind of might as well have just stayed at 30 flips a month and kept it a solo operation.
Yeah.
It's either that or you upgrade the types of flips you do. Right? We have one student. She went from phone flipping in Canada to house flipping. So she just transitioned the skills to a different industry that had more money.
Yeah.
Right.
Higher
Build up
conversion.
skills, build up liquidity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, from our perspective, from our vantage point, I understand how like phone flippers and electronics resellers are scaling into like, 6 or 7 figure like business models. How are couch flippers doing that? Like how are they solving this problem of I'm stuck at 30 flips a month or whatever?
Yeah, first and foremost, anyone that is cracking like 50K a month has figured out a more scalable source of inventory. Now, the retailer returns that we offer are a very promising route.
Hmm.
And, you know, I'm not going to dive so deeply into that, but I think it's very promising relative to some of these other opportunities. But you could buy B stock returns. You could get, returns through a different channel. Like Costco sells their returns on B stock. So a lot of the guys that have scaled up, they're just getting truckloads from Costco essentially.
Wow.
You become a new furniture dealer. You could become like a Ashley verified dealer. You could,
Oh,
there are some other,
a
uh,
store.
There you go, like
exactly,
store. Yeah.
exactly. But the main thing, the most important thing is like you're not running around town picking up individual couches. Like it's just
Yeah.
impossible to do that way. You need to get inventory at scale, at least, 15, 20 couches at a time comes to you in a truck. It's ready to go with some like minimal effort staging preparation. That's the first piece. Uh, Second is they need to get lean and mean with their operations. I mean, this is always the case with any hustle, like any business that kind of has this hustle element to it, is like you got to hustle, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
figure out where you need to trade, like, rather than put time in, put money in. So like really good example is our listing management platform. So we let you create a listing on Ivy Flip, and then you can publish it to Facebook, offer up Craigslist, the Ivy store, which is kind of our internal platform. Think of it like Airbnb for couch flipping, and then your website. So you can list it to 5 locations with a button click. We have templates, saves you time in creating the listing.
Hmm.
You can drop prices across platforms. You can delist. And so everything that you need to quickly create, list, and manage your products.
Uh-huh.
If you wanted to list 10 products on 5 platforms manually,
Yeah.
that's hours worth of work. Whereas like, with our platform, you could do it in 5 minutes, right?
Mm.
Nice. Awesome.
So, and some people see the value of that, right?
Mhm.
And those
Yeah.
are generally the people that win. And then some people are like, oh, well, why would I pay for this? I can just do it myself. Well, it's
Yeah.
like they're not valuing their time correctly,
Hmm.
right? And then the final piece of the puzzle, if you have the supply and the operations, is the distribution. It doesn't matter how much inventory you have and how efficiently you operate if you can't sell your product. And so
Right.
this is really the final piece of the puzzle. And this is, I think, the most challenging piece, actually, because let's say you can get inventory at scale
Uh-huh.
and you figure out your operational model like down pat and it's like things are running smoothly,
Hmm.
then the limiting factor is how many couches you can sell. And I think this is where most people are getting stuck, right?
Yeah.
So there are different tactics for that, like whether, and part of it is list on multiple marketplaces, get an offer up for business account. And so you can publish more listings and you can get more listings boosted on that marketplace, build a
Marcus
brand.
did that.
Yeah, market yourself as a brand, have a Google My Business, probably get a local presence, like a brick and mortar, a showroom where people can walk into. That
Yeah.
storefront seems to be an unlock for revenue for a lot of people.
Mm.
Um, Learn effective marketing tactics like advertising, SEO, Facebook ads, Google ads, right?
Yeah.
So kind of the
Yeah.
standard set of things that you need to learn how to market a local business.
I got a quick
One
question on
tactic.
too when you're
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and then finally, one tactic that couch flippers have used to accelerate sales is called a couch group. So basically, they'll funnel all of their marketplace interactions into a Facebook group, And
That's
then
good.
once a week, they're dropping products. So they're like, I'm working on this product, getting it ready.
Yeah.
Friday, right before the weekend. All right, guys, here's everything that I prepared. There are 8 couches, first come, first come, first served. When they're gone, they're gone. And so that's done a lot to generate like hype and excitement for products and get them sold quickly.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I like that because it's almost kind of like well, you're creating your own audience for your own, your own product, which is great. And there's a lot of Facebook groups, I think similarly dedicated to that, whether it's in like the like phone reselling, like reselling of phones, like the actual courses, and like some of the products. Because Chris can tell you, like if you start one of those groups, inevitably within like 10 seconds, you're gonna have 12 guys going, "Hey, here's my direct buyer price list. I want to."
Yeah.
It's a little scammy sometimes, but nonetheless, it's there. Um, so okay, that's eye-opening because it gives me, I think, a healthier perspective on, I guess, how these things kind of, in a lot of ways, just run really parallel to each other, like couch flipping, phone flipping, or electronics reselling. Very cool.
Got a quick question on that. You and I put together like an ad campaign for couch flippers a while back, and you said it did relatively okay. I was looking through the no nonsense couch flipping group. It looks like somebody did almost like the exact same thing. Keon, I don't know if you know him,
Yeah,
but
he's one of our customers.
oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. I saw he had the ad copy and everything. Fresh new inventory every week. First come, first serve. Best deals go fast. No BS, just the prices you'll find. Like, was that something that I inspired, or was that something you guys came up with together, or because I
No,
noticed it was very similar to what we came up with, and it looked like it did pretty well for him.
mhm. No, he's been blazing his own trail there. I
Nice.
have, sat with him, done some consulting. He came on the podcast at one
Oh,
point.
nice.
Cool.
He's a customer. Um, we have a close relationship, I'd say. I've given him advice, maybe considers me a mentor.
That's awesome.
Um, and I've seen what he's been posting about the ads, and something like that is necessary. And I'm very happy that he's sharing his insights and
Oh
learnings with
yeah,
the
for sure.
community. Um, I want to do something like that in a more formalized or structured way in the near future. So we are at the conference launching a new product called Ivy Industry. And Ivy Industry is an application based like membership that includes our full access to our full stack of software, but also a layer of services on top of that, including access to the retailer liquidations, managed ad services. So we'll run your ads, Google ads for you, and then a weekly mastermind and one-on-one coaching. So I
Oh,
want
so
to
it's
tackle, yeah,
what we do in Recelerator.
exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
want to
The business
almost
suite.
exactly like kind of create like almost like a franchise model. And then, but the access to this is exclusive in that there can only be, say, 1 to 5 flippers that are part of this per metro, right? So we are geographically constrained in a way that you guys are not. Um,
Well, that could be changing actually,
yeah.
because we've had multiple people in the same cities join. Like Matt has actually had this issue. What have we onboarded? What, 5 people into your city?
Yeah. Tulsa's not a huge place, and I've literally taught like about 4 people, hey, here's how you find deals in my city.
Yeah.
It's a good thing my skill is refined.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I would like to cover topics like that in a more formal way. I think the problem, so Keon's doing really well. I think the problem with the analysis that he's posting is that the sample size is very small.
Yeah.
So like he's done 5 updates on the same campaign with like different creatives, but a total budget of like $100.
Uh,
And like these results are good, but they're not statistically significant, right? Like, who knows if you can recreate those results at like a scaled budget. I think the other thing that he's doing really well is that he has a car sales background, so he just knows like how to follow up, and I think that's the piece of the puzzle that is very underrated in getting the maximum amount out of your leads is that you have to follow up with like a
Yep.
certain level of aggression, right? Like
yeah.
you got to close those deals. So,
Especially
Yes,
with
sir.
yeah.
Yeah.
We have the same issue with because Facebook, it's interruption marketing, right? Like interruption marketing is already hard in and of itself. But if you don't know how to sell and you don't know how to close and you don't know how to follow up, then you're gonna suck. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people
Or
come to me
negotiate.
or negotiate. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
if I have a lot of people come to me and they're just like Facebook ads don't work, and I'm like, yeah, they don't work if you can't negotiate and you can't, like follow up with people. Of course, they're not going to work. Duh. You know. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
And I think there's a lot of value to be unlocked in the Facebook ads for couch flipping, as like driving leads, getting people into your showroom. Um, what I know about Facebook ads though is that in contrast to Google ads, you need to continuously apply a lot of pressure, right? Because if you run the same ads in a market for an extended period of time, there's definitely ad fatigue, and
Yeah.
then the ads start to become less effective over time. And so you really need a testing regime where, you have an ad that you're running, but, at least on a weekly interval, I'd say that you're trying out new creatives. So, yeah, I think there needs to be a more structured process around this. And what's interesting is like, let's say I get 50 guys in different cities across the United States and I run an ad in one city, well, very likely that ad is going to be uh, effective in another city. And so we can just scale like our testing could just be much faster and more efficient by consolidating the ad buying power of many, many flippers. So we have one variant that we test in all 50 markets, and then we can spend a lot of money very quickly and then run like many more tests.
well, that's what we
Same,
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
same
I
same
mean,
thing with like landing pages too, right? Like so we have a CMS product. Basically, you can build a website
Mhm.
on our platform. And like same thing, like if you're just talking about the traffic in your local market, it's hard to get enough traffic to get a statistically significant result. But if I have 50 landing pages and it's all the same landing page, plus or minus like your information, then I can get much more rapid feedback on what is the right landing page design.
yeah.
And so, that's kind of where we see ourselves situated in the industry is that we're really like a conduit for pooling the collective resources and buying power of these flippers together to find a more efficient model.
I
Yeah.
like it.
That's like the missing link. It's like somewhere between, hey, I've accidentally discovered how to make $1,000 by reselling electronics, phones, or couches. How do I make $100,000? And there's people that are, if you just stay in like a side hustle or employee mentality, it's like, okay, but then like from the entrepreneurial perspective, like a lot of this has been from your stance, Charles, Chris, myself. It's like running ahead and going, oh yeah, I guess that is the next like a la carte offering that needs to be presented. That is like helping these people figure out, oh, okay, like how do we sort of part the sea and make a clear path so that you can run to 100K as quickly as possible. And it's just like super cool, like seeing what that journey has like spelled out and been like for you, because yeah, it just sounds like such a great offering for people that are in the couch flipping industry when couches seem like just like obnoxiously like large and take up tons of space. I wouldn't think that people could do six figures with
Yeah.
couches, but
Kind of
but
crazy.
clearly I'd be wrong.
Yeah. Pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
I
Love
guess
it. Well,
final thought on that is
yeah, go for it.
like Ivy Flip and me personally, like we were not very well received by the couch flipping community initially. It's taken a lot of time to get here because and I understand it like but like in that Facebook group, for example, there used to be like a daily post about how I was evil, you know?
Oh wow.
And yeah, and it's died down a lot, but I thought about it a lot and I can understand where like, that sentiment came from. So it's like I'm an outsider. It's just like who's this like
Oh
tech
yeah.
guy and they don't really know my background, so they're free to judge me how they please. Um and like I represent change, right? Even if I'm not the reason things are changing, I represent change in the
Mhm.
industry to a lot of people.
Mhm.
And uh, when you've built a nice little hustle for yourself, and it's how you're providing for your family,
Yeah.
You're protective of that. And there
Yeah.
was a golden age in couch flipping where you were a single guy, a cell phone and a storage unit in your truck, and you were making $12,000 a month, $15,000 a month. And it was easy. You were cruising, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden things start changing. Software starts appearing, more competitor, like the thing becomes more well known. You can't get the couches at the same price that you used to back in the day. And so that golden age of flipping is gone.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean that there isn't opportunity or even a bigger opportunity than there was in the past. And in fact, the opportunity is much, much bigger as the industry grows, as I've explained. But that comes with change. And as ultimately, third parties need to enter the game that are not doing the thing that you do in order to enable expansion. A really good example of this is if you want to offer financing to your customers, you're not doing that financing on your own. You're not taking on that credit risk, right? What if the customer doesn't pay and it just makes no sense for you to become an issuer of credit to offer financing to your customers. So you're gonna integrate Klarna or Acima into your business. Same thing with software. It doesn't make sense for a couch flipper for most industries to build software for themselves. They require someone like ourselves to come in as a third party that builds software to their needs using our background and specialization instead.
I agree with
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, that
I
was
mean,
my concluding thought.
you talk about the golden age of couch flipping. We had a golden age of phone flipping, right?
True.
Where it was
True.
what 2012 through about 2019 ish, where you could literally just enter the market and make $1,000 a week, like with no problem, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but as things became more well known, I also view it as a really good thing, actually, because it actually weeds out the people that just aren't um, serious. You know, like, oh no, you can't post your ad on Facebook Marketplace anymore. The industry is dead. You know, like that's the extreme people take things to, right? Um, or you can't post on Craigslist anymore. You know, the industry is dead. The RSIM goes away. The industry is dead. Like it's all the industry is dead stuff, and I love seeing that because it just shows that people they just they won't hang anyway, and they won't hang in any industry because everything has changed. Everything is going to change no matter what you want, you know.
Mhm.
And nowadays you actually have to to become a six-figure flipper in flipping electronics, you got to be legitimate at this point. You got to do things the right way. You got to get a Google My Business. You got to do Google ads. You got to do Facebook ads. You got to do, all these different marketing tactics to get in front of more people, right? And really, that's unless you just, find the quote unquote magic wholesaler that's going to sell to you below market value, which I'm sorry, that's not going to happen,
The plug, yeah.
Yeah, the plug, right? The thing about plugs, guys, is like they go away. Like they never last ever. So, um
Fell off the truck. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it fell off the truck.
Only
Yep.
so many trucks they can fall
Yeah.
off of.
Dumb. Uh but yeah, I think that's actually a really good I mean, is there any closing things you want to say? We've been going at this for a bit now. This has been good conversation though, and I hope everybody enjoys it.
Yeah.
Um but is there
Well, no, I'm
anything
I'm good.
closing out
You
that you
guys.
want to say, Charles?
No, I would just say, keep hustling, guys.
Yeah. Check out Ivy Flip, guys. ivyflip.com, I'm assuming.
Yes, ivyflip.com.
Awesome. Cool. So, yeah, check that out, guys. We'll post it in the first comment below. And with that being said, make sure to check out the stuff we have in the description. We got some free resources for you guys to get started with your phone flipping business. You can join our starter kit program, $7 a month, cancel anytime. Full disclosure, that's meant to, upsell you into eventually working with us in Recelerator because we want you to make lots and lots of money and we want to buy your devices. So, and then also we talked a lot about consoles on this call. If you're interested in doing that only and you're kind of, a little bit wary of phones, feel free to check out Console Kings. Console Kings is Matt's course. He built that, and he goes over literally every single there's a lot of modules in that. It's awesome. And he does a great job of explaining how to buy certain consoles and make money flipping only consoles. And you get a weekly call with that too. So check out the stuff, guys, and we'll see you guys on the next podcast. See you guys later.
Thanks for having me. Ciao.
All right. Thanks.